Hi everyone, Mike Volkin here with Freelancer Masterclass. Today we're talking about project management and specifically freelance project management. Now, why do freelancers need to know how to manage projects? Because that's what you do as a freelancer. You manage projects, and you manage projects with other freelancers, and you manage projects with other clients. Today, and there's a lot to know, but today we're going to be talking about the top 10 tips that I've put together to effectively manage projects. So many people that are freelancers get thrusted into two things. One, a leadership position, which they may or may not have ever been a leader before. And two, project management. You may have a specialty in design or coding or marketing, and you may have never managed a project before. But guess what? As a freelancer, everyone manages projects. So let's go ahead and get into the top 10 tips so I can teach you some project management tips and effectiveness to make it much better for you. That was a terrible sentence, but you know what I mean. Let's get started. Tip number one, nail down project details. So often I hire a freelancer and they don't ask a lot of questions. I'm the one providing a lot of the details. So freelancers really have to get into the who, what, when, where, and why of a project, especially the why, because a lot of times clients that hire you for jobs, they don't understand really the scope of what needs to be done. They just know it needs to be done. So you are the one that has to go in and nail down all the details for them. And a lot of times, but clients don't know what access you need. So if you need access to Google Analytics, if you need access to their design files, if you need access to some of their staff, let them know. That's all the kind of stuff you need to know. And I know a lot of freelancers who have discovery call questionnaires. In fact, we give one away at Freelancer Masterclass once you're a student. But these discovery call questionnaires are all the questions you need to ask on a discovery call so you understand the full scope and all the project details. Okay. Number two, identify the project and team requirements. So what exactly is needed to complete the project? So in other words, let's take the staff resources, for example. If you're working for a company and you need to have access to their designer or their writer, not only tell them that, but you have to tell them what time commitment and what the deadlines are. Say, listen, I'm going to need you for 10 hours this week. I'm going to need a designer for 5 hours next week. You have to identify all that stuff. All right. So let them know in advance so they can prepare their team accordingly. Some of the stuff might sound obvious, but you'll be surprised how many freelancers don't take that initiative with their clients, and that's just sets up for poor communication. Number three, be the project leader. So many times as a freelancer, you are hired as a leader, not knowing that you're going to be a leader. So you're being hired to lead a design project, to lead a website build out. And you may have never been put in a leadership position before, but there's a lot of stuff you need to know about how to delegate authority properly. So as a project leader, the best thing I could tell you is to be organized and think ahead. Those are the two big things. Number four, define critical project milestones. So the project milestone isn't just complete this project. There is milestones along the way that define your success and how you're doing. If you create a project milestone as the end of the project, then you are leaving yourself open to a whole bunch of liability from your client. For example, let's say you are hired to design a website and you deliver the website. Done. Here you go. Based on your specifications, this is what I think you need. And they're going to be like, whoa, wait a second. I need this, this, and this. This is all wrong. It's done here incorrectly. This is good, but you have to do it here. And this font is wrong. It doesn't match our brand and all this stuff. And you have to do everything all over again. So typically when I work with web designers, I have them, one, go through our brand book that we have for the company. Number two, I'll have them wireframe out the way they want the pages. Number three, I'll have them layer the pages design on top of those wireframes. So what is each page going to look like? And number four, I'll have them tie in the back-end functionality. So all those pages are talking to each other and all the forms are integrated, all the technology is integrated. Like those are specific milestones along the way. For example, another example, a designer creating a logo, right, for a company, they would create several different concepts. The company would choose from one of those concepts, and then there would be several variations of that one concept, right? So it's not just, you're delivering the end product, okay? So what you need to do before defining the end of what the completion looks like, define what successful project milestones are along the way. Number five, keep the communication lines open. Super important, probably the most important of all these tips. If you don't have an open line of communication, all these other tips I'm telling you about are going to fall to the wayside. All right, so be open to communicate. That doesn't mean to respond immediately to every communication. It just means Be open to communicate, and don't be such a hard head. Sometimes I work with clients like, no, I don't want it this way, and they don't want to open to any suggestions, and then that way I know they're not right for me, because I have to work in a collaborative environment with my clients, especially someone like myself who's a marketing leader. If I don't have that collaboration, I'm just in a bubble and my work just suffers. Number 6, managing up. We give a whole class about this at Freelancer Masterclass. Managing up is so super important. You have to know what questions to ask your client in order to exceed expectations. So basically managing up comes down to anticipating what your client is going to need. And if you're managing a project and have other freelancers under you, then you have to anticipate what they're going to need in advance. That's managing down, but it's the same concept. It's to reduce the volume of communication that is needed. So take this, for example. I'm working with a web developer, and they ask me, what kind of colors would you like for the website? Green and gray. Okay. Do you need SEO for this website? Yes. Okay. If you need SEO, do you need this kind of SEO? Yes. So all of that could have been done in one email instead of 3 emails. But some people treat emails like chat lines. It's like one sentence send, one sentence send, Don't do that. Managing up is about aggregating all the information you need into efficient communication, anticipating your client's needs or your freelancer's needs or your team's needs, and then moving along that way. Okay. Number 7, whoops, skipped ahead. Number 7, manage risks. So for every project milestone that you come up with, you have to think, worst case scenario, what could possibly go wrong here? And just make a list. I know this takes time. You're like, Mike, I'm billable. I need to get going on this project. I'm telling you, things will go wrong on just about every project. I can probably count on one hand all the 400 projects I've worked with plus how many times something didn't go wrong. Something goes wrong almost every time, major and minor things. So I want you to be able to mitigate risks by understanding what they could be in the future. For example, if you're doing a website launch, you don't want to just make the changes live. You want to think about the risks. Like, what would happen if I make them live and the code doesn't jive with the hosting, the host account? What happens if the data on the back end doesn't transfer over to the new website? What happens if this breaks or that breaks or the Wi-Fi goes down or whatever? There could be 1,000 different things that go wrong once you write down the major risks. And because things that go wrong, you get blamed for. All right. And then you start asking for refunds, you get lawsuit threats and stuff that you don't want. It just takes 10 minutes to think about to document all the things that could go wrong, and then manage up, talk to your clients. Listen, before I go through this next milestone, these are the things that could go wrong. How do we mitigate this? Okay. Number 8, avoid scope creep. Scope creep is something to where your clients will ask you to do something that wasn't in the original agreement or you never talked about. I just had a 4-star review, boo, on Upwork, a very rare 4-star review. I did great work for the client, but they thought, hey, you know what? I thought you were going to do Facebook ads. I thought that was a part of our marketing strategy. And I'm like, no. So I record every conversation I have with my clients. I went through all my conversations. I went through all of our written communication. I said, look, here's all the recordings of our conversation. Here's our written communication. You could do a search on for the word Facebook ads, like nothing. We never discuss this. I don't know where you got this from, but he already left a review. So what are you going to do? So avoid scope creep. He thought that he was going to get something he didn't. So the way you can avoid scope creep is documenting everything in your proposal, in your bid letter, whatever you want to call it, and every single thing you're going to do. Okay. Test and then test again. Let's use the website as an example. You create this great website, you launch it live, and oops, 10 things are broken. It doesn't look good on mobile. The form doesn't work. The formatting is off on some pages. The data didn't transfer over. All that could have been done in sandbox mode, and you tested it thoroughly. And have your client test it. A lot of them don't want to take time to test things, but I'm telling you, the client needs to test this, insist upon this, because they need to understand. A lot of times clients will just say, go ahead and launch it, and then they'll look at it once it's live and say, oh, wait, we need to do this, this, and this. That happens all the time. So you need to cut that and just say, listen, we need to test this before we make anything live. I need your full and undivided attention on this. Call a special meeting just so you can live test this with them. And the last tip I have for effective freelance project management is AAR. We call this AAR in the Army. I was in the Army for 8 years. It's called after action review. So you have to review what went right and what went wrong. As a freelancer, especially in a niche market, if you're going to be providing this service, e-commerce website design for the automobile industry, right? For example, if you're going to be providing that service to other e-commerce automobile companies, then you need to do an after action review. What went wrong? How can we mitigate that in the future? What went great? How can we bring that to the forefront? How can we charge more for it? That kind of thing. So always review the project afterwards with your team to make sure that you can get the most out of your next project. All right. Good luck to you. I hope this was helpful.